would love to begin with this story, and this story is a familiar one to many people. It is a story about a man named Job. And Job, he was a wealthy fella. Job from the Bible is whom I'm referring to. I mean, he had it going on. He had a lot of material wealth. He was married. He had a lot of children. And then he just did one day he was just stricken. And all these things started to disappear one by one. And he became despondent, if you would. And it was an interesting thing that his wife said to him. She said to him, "Curse your God and die." Job said, "Not me, not I. I will not do that." And Job goes on to have a redemption story, actually. Listen, this is Anne Marie, host of About This Life. About This Life is a podcast. It's really designed to take a look at some of life's challenges, to be able to say, how did that person get through it? How did that person move through it? So that we can take those golden nuggets and impact our own lives. Our guest today is Kevin. Hey, Kevin.
What's happening, Anne Marie?
I don't know. You had me laughing from the beginning. So I think this is going to be an amazing conversation.
Likewise, my friend, likewise.
Yes. Kevin Palmieri is the founder and host of Next Level University. And if I make a mistake, you are going to correct me. Now, not just Next Level University in terms of a thing or a program, which he is going to tell us about, but also a podcast of the same name. So
Yes.
that is pretty amazing. I want to get back to this story about Job because at some point in his life, especially when his wife comes by and said, "Curse your God and die," I think to myself, how many people might be so desperate that, yeah, that's an option for them?
That was my story for sure, Anne Marie. I was somebody who somehow achieved a level of success I never thought I would. Had the assumption, which was an incorrect one, that external success would fix internal voids, internal traumas, internal insecurities. And very similar to that story, I found myself sitting on the edge of a bed contemplating suicide, even though I was quote unquote successful. And I think it makes logical sense. When we think about it, when I was young, when I was a young boy, we didn't have a lot of money. I never felt good enough. I never felt smart enough. I never felt attractive enough. And I convinced myself that if I just fixed those problems when I became an adult, of course things will just kind of work themselves out. Right. And I think I'm unfortunately at times walking, talking proof that you can get everything that you want. But if you don't work on you internally, that external stuff is not going to fix that internal stuff. And
Uh,
unfortunately, I found that out the hard way.
you say that, Kevin, but I'm thinking I don't have one yet, but that BMW ride. And I think And I've gone on a few dates, and it seems that men in my age have that Mercedes. And I'm just like, that smooth ride. And I'm thinking to myself, are you here to say to me that having things wealth in terms of the big house, in terms of Mercedes, BMW, or whatever your jam is, you mean to say to me those things are not fulfilling? Those things don't satisfy your soul?
100%. I think they satisfy your ego for sure.
Okay. Mm.
And I think they bring momentary bouts of happiness. So, very appropriate, Anne Marie. I have a BMW.
Okay.
Yesterday, I went and bought a brand new one. So, I'm trading mine in and getting a brand new one. Now,
Absolutely.
when I pick that up tomorrow and I drive it off the lot, I will feel happy. Happiness is a pleasure based activity that burns very hot, but very quickly. Fulfillment is a soul based feeling that burns very, very slowly and cooler than happiness does. I'm not going to be fulfilled because of the car. I am not going to be. No, 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 no. But what is fulfilling is the type of person I have had to become in order to be able to achieve that. The result is not going to fulfill me. I think it is the process that fulfills us far more than the result does. And I think it's easy to fall into pleasure is great. I like sugar. I like donuts. I like ice cream. Too much pleasure is not good. I think happiness is the same thing. I think we've been tricked into thinking that we all desire a life of happiness when I think most of us desire a life of fulfillment with bouts of happiness.
That is an important distinction to make, and you're so correct because when we're young, we're taught it's almost what's bred into us is this dream. Once you achieve a certain level, that, oh my goodness, you've made it. And then, everything is easy peasy.
Yeah.
Let's go back to your childhood for a moment because you said you didn't feel good enough.
Mm.
You said, Kevin, what I heard you say is that you didn't feel attractive. Okay. So you need a blush now because you are definitely attractive.
I thank you. I appreciate it.
So why do you think you had those feelings?
My dad left when I was a baby, and I think I internalized him as leaving. I internalized him leaving as my doing. I wasn't good enough. I must have been defective. There must have been something wrong with me. Because if there wasn't something wrong with me, my dad would have stuck around and I would have had a quote unquote normal life. I think that started the cycle. And then essentially what happened was from there, anytime I did something good, I felt like I got lucky. So I
Mm,
never I never gave myself credit for doing it. The interesting thing, I dated a lot of very attractive women when I was growing up. I dated a lot of very attractive women. I was really good at sports, but I never felt like I was good at sports, and I always felt like they must have just been missing something to date me. Maybe they just didn't have self-belief or they didn't have self-worth. So it was never about me. I never was the maestro. I was never orchestrating what was happening. I was just benefiting from it. And I think that just perpetuated. And I never developed. When we talk often about building self belief, I think building self belief really is a three-step process. It's not as simple as this, but I think this is where it starts. You state that you're going to do something. So I'm going to come on this podcast today and I'm going to add some value. That's my statement. Okay, cool. You
cool.
prove that's where I'm starting with. You you prove to yourself that you are capable of doing it. Hopefully, we've added a shred of value so far. That's the goal, right? Well, cool. Okay. And then the last thing, and I think one of the things that's really hard for a lot of us is you self-assign that. I said I was going to do it. I did it. Now I get the good feelings associated with it. I never stated it. I somehow proved it, and I never self-assigned. So I just thought I got lucky. I thought I was just more lucky than most people more often. And that essentially became the cycle I ran for 26 years.
So you attributed that stage in your life to luck. Someone else was making these decisions, and it's almost like living outside of yourself, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's how it's coming across to me. It's like you're watching this person who is you living this life. It looks wonderful on the outside. How did you get to that life to begin with in terms of what society thinks is successful? How did you get from I don't feel good enough about myself to you move to a place where from the outside looking in, people would think you're successful?
My natural answer is going to be I got lucky, and we'll
Yeah.
unpack that.
Uh-huh. Unpack that for us.
We're going to unpack it. So, after high school, all my friends went away to college. I didn't. I don't know what I want to do with my life. The last thing I'm going to do is pay $30,000 a year to party and figure it out. It doesn't make any sense. So I got a job at a local gas station. And you'll hear how these beliefs got reinforced. I got a job at a gas station pumping gas. That was my first full-time job. I always felt like everybody who came in was looking down on me. I would have people that went off to college and were home for the summer. They come back to the small town that I'm in and I'm still pumping gas and they're out getting degrees or whatever. That doesn't feel good for me. That's an ego thing. So eventually I leave the gas station and I ended up getting a job working at a hospital overnight cleaning bathrooms and floors. Same thing. In the
Mhm.
Unfortunately, in the hierarchy of the hospital I'm working at, I am not getting any respect and nobody is giving me any shred of appreciation.
Right,
Damn.
right.
Okay. Well, maybe let me do something that I actually want to do. So I became a personal trainer.
Hmm.
Nice. I always wanted to be a personal trainer.
Yes.
Then I realized it was essentially all about sales, and I wasn't good at sales, and I was not willing to make people feel bad so they would spend more money. I ended up leaving that job, quitting. Then I was a forklift operator, and then I was a truck driver, and I worked HVAC, and I did this and this and this and this, and I could never find anything that I really liked that paid well, essentially. Eventually, I went to this job fair, and they had a skill that you could learn called weatherization. I
Mm.
don't know what it means. I don't know what it is, but it says you work with your hands. Good enough for
Why
me.
not?
That's it. That's it.
Why
I,
not?
I can work with my hands. So I go to this job fair and I learn this new skill and I'm doing kind of the exit interview next steps after I get my little certification. And they said, "We're going to connect you based on your personality, based on your work ethic. Those are two things that I guess I've always had, right? We're going to connect you with the best company." And I said, "I'm sure you say that to everybody. I'm willing to hear it out though. What do you got?" And they said, "This company pays anywhere from 50 to $60 an hour. The only downside is you're going to have to do travel." And I said, "I don't think this is real. This isn't real. This is not this couldn't possibly be real. All
Right.
right, we'll give you the number to the boss. You can call him and you guys can discuss it." So I end up calling him up and I end up getting this job. And the first job I ever worked, like the first physical job I ever did with this company, I met my boss in Boston. It's the second time I ever met him. We
Hmm.
got in his Subaru Outback and drove from Boston, Massachusetts to Wilmington, Delaware. We moved into a house that was rented, and I moved in with five strangers I had never met.
My
And then
goodness.
and then we went and did a job the next day that I had never done. Opened my first pay stub, and I made $50 an hour for 40 hours. And I said, "Oh my
Oh
good
my God.
gracious, this is real." I was in. I was in and I proceeded to do better at this job and I ended up finding a very attractive partner and we were dating and I had a nice car because I was making good money and we moved in together and I was competing in a bodybuilding show, so I was in the best shape ever. So from the external, high paying job, nice car, hot girlfriend, new apartment, great friends, in great shape. What could possibly go wrong?
How do you end up on the edge of the bed thinking about suicide?
Yeah, my my partner at the time came to me one day and said, "I'm leaving. Your depression is getting worse, your anxiety is getting worse, you're essentially you're a shell of the man that I met and I just don't feel like you can support me in my goals." And she was correct, 100%. She said something to me that at the time was so polarizing. She said, "I was going to leave last month, but I was afraid if I did, you might kill yourself."
Mm,
And I remember thinking,
mm,
how the heck did it get this far?
mm-hmm.
How did it get this far? When she left, work got slow and my bills just doubled because we were splitting all the bills. Damn. I won my bodybuilding show, but I now had an eating disorder for sure. And I was depressed and I was anxious and I was really, really struggling. I fell into the same trap of thinking, well, if I go make a boatload of money, this other stuff will just work itself out. So the next year, I grinded my face off, ended up getting to the end of the year. I made $100,000 that year, and I opened my final pay stub. And I remember thinking, I don't feel any different. I feel exactly the same. If anything, I feel like I just wasted a year of my life because I lived unconsciously. I didn't check in with myself to figure out what I actually needed to feel good about me. Why can't I get this right? I did what any young man would do. Anne Marie, I started a podcast called
Okay.
the Hyper Conscious Podcast. I am living unconsciously. The opposite of unconscious is hyperconscious. Watch me go learn about myself. That was my thought process. Fell in love with podcasting, but as you know, in the beginning, there's not a line out the door of people saying, "This is a great idea.
True.
How much
True.
money do you need to do this full time?" So I had to keep doing this job that I hated. Traveling was getting worse. I was getting homesick before I left. My depression was getting worse. My anxiety was getting worse, even though I was making the most money I'd ever made. Eventually, I woke up in a hotel room at like 5:15, 5:30. I was getting ready for work that day. We were traveling, we were on the road. Sat up, slid to the edge of the bed, was lacing up my work boots. And the best way to explain it is there was 10 televisions on in my head at the same time, and
Mm-hmm.
every single one was on a different station. And
Mm-hmm.
none of these were cartoons. None of these were positive stations you'd want your children to see. And I just had these repeating thoughts. You can't ever leave this job because you got lucky, and you're
Mm-hmm.
never going to get that lucky again. If you ever left, what would your friends think? If you ever left, what would your family think? And if we're being honest, do you really
Mm-hmm.
think you're going to be a successful podcaster? That's what we're going to do. That's our fallback plan. I don't think that's going to work. It was in that moment where I thought to myself, well, if I was just to take my life, I would take all my problems with me.
Everything would be solved. So what I hear
Yeah,
is self-doubt,
of course.
imposter syndrome,
Yes.
fear, abandonment,
Mm-hmm.
is in there, and so many other things that come with it. So your depression, how did it manifest? Because a lot of people, it manifests differently in different people. Some people, it's irritability or it's anger.
Mm.
Some people, when they're depressed, they just want to sleep all the time. And then there is the manic aspect of anxiety where you're just going and you're grinding and you never ever slow down. So I heard a little bit of the anxiety, like you just kept going. How did the depression manifest?
I would say there was definitely a manic aspect where I mean, I worked and grinded a lot. Like we would work an 8 hour shift. I would wake up in the morning, I'd go work out for an hour, I'd work an 8 hour shift, and then we would drive 8 hours home. And that was just
Mm.
like a normal Friday. I was like, yeah, it's not that big of a deal. And then I was very reclusive. So Monday through Friday, essentially, I would live in a hotel with someone on the road while we worked. Saturday and Sunday, I wouldn't talk to anybody. I wouldn't see anybody. I would literally sit in my house by myself. I didn't want to talk to anybody. I didn't want to see anybody. When I was off of work, I was always by myself. So I reclused. I wanted to be away from people. I wanted to be alone. That was a really big thing. And then I think the best way to explain it is everything just felt dull and gray. It just everything was just so dull and so gray, and it just felt so hopeless and lacking excitement. That's how it
How
manifested.
how how did love show up in your life? In terms of like your relationship with your mom
Mm,
or any any other relationship, how did love show up in your life or not show up in your life? We know the story about your dad.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I feel like love was inconsistent. I think love was inconsistent. There was a time when I was younger where my mom was kind of in and out of my life. And
Hmm.
I think, again, I think that was like, did I do something wrong? Is that because of me?
Hmm.
So I think it was inconsistent is probably the best way to explain it. And as I got older, I always assumed that if I got with the right person, they would fix me. Like the relationship could fix me.
So many of us do, Kevin.
Oh, of course, of course, of course. And
Oh my God.
even a layer deeper, Amory, I would rather have been in a misaligned, unhealthy relationship than have been alone. That was my cycle was I wouldn't same thing. I wouldn't state that I'm going to go find a really amazing partner, prove to myself that I did it and then self-assign. I would just find someone to fill the slot. And then it was like, well, that happened. And then I would run with that. So I think this I'm married now, and I think this is like the first relationship I've ever really understood because I actually understand myself and I understand my wife and we understand each other. And I know she's not going to fix me. It's not her job to fix me. It's our job separately to work on ourselves. So when we come together, we're greater than we are when we're apart. But that took me 29 years, 28 years to really figure that out. And I'm always figuring it out, right? So
Right.
yeah, I would say it felt like at times it was inconsistent. Then eventually I just became hyper focused on making it consistent regardless of quality because I was just afraid to be alone, even though I kind of loved being alone. It was a weird cycle for me.
I know because there's the difference between being alone and loneliness. One can be an introvert and appreciate your own company and your own independence to a degree, but we are human beings. We are creatures that desire connection
Mm,
with other people.
yeah.
That's what makes us special, I suppose. Even the animal kingdom
Yeah.
needs companionship. So you're on the edge of the bed, 10 televisions going off in your head, a lot of crazy thoughts that are moving through, and you're thinking, I don't want to go through this anymore. How did you move from there to being the man that you are today? Like, what got you out of that bed? What was there support system that came, or did you go seek out help? Where did the rescue come? Did you rescue yourself or did somebody else rescue you?
I don't think anybody truly rescues themselves. I think it's there's always somebody that helped in some way, shape, or form. I reached out to a friend. I reached out to a friend. I said, "Hey, I'm struggling. I'm having these thoughts. I'm having these feelings. I'm having these emotions. I don't know what to do. What do I do?" And this friend is my business partner now. So it
Mhm.
worked out beautifully. And this I always like to throw this in because people will say, "Well, how are you so vulnerable? How were you able to be vulnerable with him?" We had already cried together. We were really close. We had talked about some deep stuff. I think it's important to understand that all of us are going to encounter storms eventually. We can't wait to build the umbrella until we're standing in the middle of the storm.
I
I had
like that.
already I had built the umbrella with him. I felt safe reaching out to him. It was not a Herculean effort for me to reach out to him. I reached out, I expressed what I was feeling, and he helped paint a more bright picture and create some hopefulness and say, Kev, a lot can change. You don't have to stay at this job forever. I know you're feeling like things are closing in on you, but they're not really. You're growing and you're evolving, and your awareness has changed a ton, but I think your environments have remained the same. I think it's time for you to change your environment. It's like, ooh,
How do
wisdom.
how do you how do you because when you have a great friend, which it sounds like like you do and did in that period of your time of your life, there is a movement that some of us, when we go through our friendships, we don't want to even tell our friends certain things.
Yeah.
And suicidal thoughts is one of those things because even your best friend, your BFF, right? Uh, Certainly they know you more than anybody else, but there is a fear that what is this person going to think of me if I confess to them that I'm thinking and feeling this way? And then the other part of it is you don't want their pity.
Hmm.
You need help, but you don't want pity. So what do you say to people who are listening and their friends out there, they want to help, but they don't know exactly how to open up to the friend? On the flip side of the coin, the friend doesn't know how to help someone who's in such a situation.
If you're the friend that somebody, so if somebody is reaching out to you as the friend and they're really struggling, I think the best thing you can do is say, do you want a shoulder or do you want strategy? Like, are you
Mm,
just looking to vent and you had a bad day and you want to vent? Awesome. Are you looking for like strategy? Would it be beneficial if I was to call somebody on your behalf? I think that's probably because some of us are natural solvers. So if you call
yeah.
me, my natural tendency is like, Anne Marie, tell me everything. Here we go. All right, let's start here. That's not always good, right? So when my wife has a rough day, I say, do you want a shoulder or you want strategy? I can help you solve the problem, hopefully, or I can just be here and you can stay here and when you feel better, you can walk away. I think that's probably the most constructive value I could add on that. You gotta ask. This has been beneficial for me. One, on a scale of 0 to 10, how much do I think this person might judge me? If the
Mm-hmm.
number is above
Mm-hmm.
5, it's going to be really hard to work through and move past that. Or if you don't have any idea of that, how does this person talk about other people when they see those other people being vulnerable? Because that's a really good suggestion of how they're going to look at you when you're vulnerable. So
Okay, so you look for the clues
you
in
got to
terms of
find
that
the
person.
clues. You got to find the clues. And hopefully, if you're whether you're watching or listening, you're not feeling this right now. I'm telling you, now is the time to start building the umbrella. I One of the things I started doing when I really learned about the importance, and honestly, even before I learned about the importance of vulnerability, I said I want to strengthen my friendships and I want to deepen them. So when I would spend time with my friends, when we would get ready to leave, I would hug them and say I love you. And in the beginning, a couple of my friends were like, "Dude, what are you doing?
Okay.
This is who I am and this is who I aspire to be and I love you like a brother and I want to show you that I love you and I care about you." And then that became the normal. We would just hug each other and say I love you. I saw one of my friends 2 weeks ago. I When I left, I gave him a big hug, said I love you brother, proud of you. Likewise, that's now kind of what we do. But that was built on a time where I was feeling good. It's easy to be vulnerable when you don't feel vulnerable. It's easier. It's
It's
easier.
easier. It's easier. Lean into the gender aspect for a moment.
You
I don't have any statistics. Okay, so I'm going on hearsay, and I'm sure like places like the National Suicide Hotline will collect data. But I know women, and I'm making a generalization here, is that we're more likely to talk with others. We're more likely to have a sister friend group and open up. And so those are some of the resiliency factors that exist and just how we communicate in general.
mm,
We are more likely to connect with someone before it comes to a devastating point. Men, on the other hand, don't. The generalization that I'm making is that men have a tendency to keep things close and wear a mask and just go through life
yeah.
as though everything is okay. And when they reach a point, they're much more likely to be successful in the execution of the act.
Yeah.
And so, what you're sharing with us in terms of the vulnerability and how do you ask a friend is so critical in terms of pulling you back from that brink. I just wanted to punctuate um, that essence. And has that been your understanding as well in terms of how women deal with mental health, mental wellness, and the difference with men? Has that been your experience?
Yeah, I think one of the reasons is I think, and again, blanket statement, I think statistically women are more self-aware than men because they grow up journaling and they grow up journaling. I think that's probably like a
Mhm.
massive, you hear so many people in the personal development space talk about the importance of journaling.
Yes.
Young girls journal. So when they journal, they're writing out their thoughts, and I think they're gaining more self-awareness. So I think that's a piece of it. I think the other piece of it is a lot of men, I'll speak for myself. The friends that I had in high school were going to be the friends that I had forever. Somebody has to go first and say, "Hey, I want to evolve into a new way of thinking, into a new way of
Mm-hmm.
being, into
Mm-hmm.
somebody's got to lead the charge." It might be you. If you want your friend group to go in a new direction, you might have to take lead as a man.
Yes.
And I think that is really, really, really hard. It is. The question we have to ask is, do I think it will be worth it to do it?
And
That's
of
the
course,
that's the $1 billion question. The $1 billion question is, will I be exiled? Will my friends judge me? Will they talk about me behind my back? They might. They very well might. Honestly, that's a suggestion that those friends aren't going to work long term anyway. Because if you want to be
mm,
authentic and vulnerable and truthful and you want to be yourself, if you can't be yourself around your friends, you don't have friends. That's that's not going to work long term. So I would rather you get the answers to those challenging questions before you need them. I'm very big on proactivity and planning. I'm very big on that because when your back is against the wall, you're not going to think logically most likely anyway, right?
absolutely.
It's really hard to, understandably. So if you can put in some of the groundwork when things are going well,
Mm-hmm.
that's I think that's a really big piece of it.
I want to say cool beans because I have to find a way to fit that in someplace.
I'm grateful for
Uh,
that.
and I want to say it because this conversation, what I appreciate about it is the opportunity to normalize mental health,
Mm,
the opportunity to normalize wellness and being able to take the initiative and make those gestures and tell your bro, yes, I love you, and normalize that it's okay and that step might lead to saving somebody's life down the road.
mm.
So let's go down the road, shall we? Let's talk
Let's do
about
it.
Next Level University and your podcast. I am amazed that, I'm reading in your bio, nearly 2,000 episodes. Woo!
I appreciate it. I appreciate
I'm sorry. Okay, Kevin, you going. You are definitely going. So talk to us a little bit. What do you do? What's your focus? What's your intention?
Yeah, so Next Level University is a podcast where we do an episode every single day. So we do 7 episodes a week on personal development, how to become successful through personal development, not skipping steps. There's no shortcuts, there's no hacks. I'm not going to teach you to go viral. I want to help you become the type of person that you want to become and then eventually gain the level of success you desire through that. That is what we are built on. The unsexy fundamentals that actually work. That is our jam for Next Level University. And then
Okay.
and then from there we've actually been able to grow a fairly large business. Everything is based on adding more value. So no matter where you are from a self-improvement perspective or where you are from a financial perspective, there is somewhere for you in the business. So we have a free Facebook group. We do free monthly meetups every month. We have a free book club. We have an email list. Cool. If you say, well, I have a little extra money I'd like to invest in my personal development, cool. We have a journal, we have an app, we have one on one coaching, we have group coaching. So there's a lot of different things that we offer based on how to level yourself up. If you want to get to the next level, that really is our goal to help you do that in health, wealth, and love. Those are our main 3 focuses.
How do you make connection? You mentioned the Facebook group, for example.
Mm.
So if use me as an example, I want to improve my life, Kevin. Oh my goodness. Let me tell you the sorrow
Well,
that I've worn. And I'm coming to Next Level University. What can you do for me, Kevin?
the the Facebook groups are a really good example of leaning into the vulnerability because for a lot of people, this conversation is not acceptable. You can't talk about growth. You can't talk about insecurities. In our Facebook group, I will lead by example and I will tell you all this. Whatever you want to know, I'm happy to share vulnerably. So that's just the community aspect. But everything else, and like I mean everything else, starts with the identity. It starts with, all right, let's figure out
Yes.
who do you think you are and why do you think you are the person that you think you are? And let's figure out the pieces of that that are serving you and the pieces of that that are not. Let's get crystal scaringly clear on what you actually want to accomplish and why. And then let's check in with, is that actually aligned with the essence of who you are as a human being? Because if it's not, you're going to be doing yourself more of a disservice than a service. We always start
Hmm.
with the person. Whether you come to me for podcast coaching or you go to my business partner for business coaching or whatever, everything is, well, we have to start with you. You are a
Yes.
reflection. You're an extension, or everything else is an extension of you. So yeah, it's that. It's very similar to the conversation we had today of like, all right, let me learn about you. And then from
Yes.
that, I can usually parse out like, okay, limiting beliefs, some lower self-worth stuff or some lower self-belief. And then yeah, you
Hmm.
you you always you start with a person and then from there you build in the habits necessary. You reverse engineer the habits and say, all right, cool. I feel like these 5 things are a really good start for you. Let's track those. And now you're off to the races.
And now you're off to the races, and now you're into improving your life.
Yeah. Little
And
by little,
and
little by little.
little by little, brick by brick. And so here you've built yourself back up to a different level. And I want to bring back a word you used before, and that word is fulfillment.
Hmm.
How does it give you a sense of fulfillment? How does it fulfill you?
I think for me, the fulfillment is one, it is extremely humbling to be able to go on a podcast and have the privilege of pouring into people's lives. I mean,
Hmm.
this is quite literally a dream for me. I know how privileged I am to be able to live my dreams every day. Most people don't get to do what they want to do. So that's a huge piece of it. The other piece is every day I am forced to grow. And that is super fulfilling, even though at times it's not great and it hurts and it's scary. And I get to add value into the lives of people. And I think the simplest answer is none of this is about me. None about me. This is bigger than
Yes.
me. It doesn't matter what I feel, what I think. It doesn't, none of that really matters. It matters that we're on this mission to build massive momentum to change the world in our own unique way. And that is it. I feel like I'm part of something that's way bigger than me. And that is just the most fulfilling thing in the world. If we think about why does charity and donation and donating your time feel so good? Because it's not about you. It's about others. It's about whatever the cause is. You're not self-conscious, you're others conscious. And that feels fulfilling. Is it does it feel good going out into the cold to volunteer? Not physically,
No.
no. Are you like super excited the whole time you're doing it? Maybe not. Afterwards, though, when you think about it, you're fulfilled because you think, I just did something really important and deeply meaningful that was way beyond me. I get the same thing. I get the same feeling. It's just in a different way.
I think it taps into this idea that it's bigger than you.
Yes.
It's bigger than self. So you start out the essence, the core of the person. And then once you understand the core, you can see that you are a light, you're part of a matrix of something that's bigger than yourself.
Yeah.
That is where fulfillment comes in when you have that higher belief. Justin, wrapping up our conversation, and the time has flew.
And
My
it
goodness.
has.
It has been a joy to speak with you.
Likewise, my friend.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Thank you. I want to throw out a word to you and just tell me, expound on it, first things that come to your mind.
Okay.
Actually, I'm going to do it twice. I have two words that bubbled up. First one is hope.
Ooh.
Hope.
It's a very challenging word because it almost doesn't matter what I say if you don't believe there is it. If you don't believe there is hope, I don't know if I can convince you that there is. That is one of those things where you have to be very honest with yourself. When I felt hopeless, the truth is all of this was possible.
Mm-hmm.
All of
Mm-hmm.
this. I just couldn't see it. What if a feeling of hopelessness is just a lack of future vision?
Wow.
That's what I would say.
Wow. Just a lack of future vision. And I love it expressed in those terms because that seems like something that you can tackle, that you can do something about that,
Yeah.
as opposed to being hopeless. Okay, I love that. Love that. The next word is light. Light.
Light. I believe at a fairly deep level personally that the more darkness you go through in terms of looking in the mirrors that you don't really want to look in, the fear, the uncertainty, the insecurity, like really the days where you don't know if you can keep going and keep growing, those are the days that allow you to deliver more light to the world. You're only capable of delivering light to the world to the degree you've worked through the darkness.
Mm,
So that's
mm.
so much inspiration and motivation to keep growing because you can only spread light to the degree that you've cleared the darkness within yourself.
Absolutely. And so you go back and you help somebody else through the darkness,
Yeah, always.
like you have,
That's the
Kevin
goal.
Palmieri. You go back and you help somebody else on that journey through the darkness. What a pleasure it has been to talk with you. So I just thank you for your time
Of course.
and for making time for me. I want to say that just in closing, I hope everyone has gained a perspective about there is hope, there is light available to you. And we will put in the credits the opportunity, some phone numbers that you can call if you need help, if you don't have that best friend. And I would love everybody if you can subscribe to About This Life, where we are changing lives one day at a time. And I want you to go check Kevin out at Next Level University podcast as well, because there are going to be some things in your evolvement that you will find there. You've been doing it for a while. Let me say again, nearly 2,000 episodes. So I think you've covered a gamut of different topics. This is Anne Marie, host of About This Life, changing our lives one day at a time.